All right, joining me now, he is an NFL insider for ESPN. He's the author of 5 books. You see him all over ESPN. You follow him on social media. It is Adam Schefter. Adam, it's great to talk to you once again. How's everything going?
Nice to be with you, Ari. How's everything going on your end?
Doing well. Again, thank you for coming on. And, I'm kind of getting ready here for the combine, but I was kind of wondering on your end, have you had a chance to decompress a little bit after this whole very long season, all the traveling and everything for this 1 week before we go out to Indy?
Well, before we get to that, is this going to be your first combine? You're going this year?
I am going to be there, yes.
And it's your first trip there?
It is my second trip there. I was there 1 year, but I wasn't inside. But this is my first year I'll actually be in there.
Yeah, well, it's a interesting trip, and you'll enjoy yourself. And it's a football convention is what it is, really. Like every team, every coach, every front office member, every player, every agent, everybody's there, right? It's like a Mardi Gras football week, and really is the unofficial start of the off season. And so to get back to your initial question, decompressing, I don't feel like that. And I guess it's just the way that it's going to be in the world we live in, the NFL world. You get home from the Super Bowl last week, and I had to go take my podcast. And then you try to catch your breath just to catch up on certain things. And before you know, we're in this week. And as we tape this, we are awaiting news from Aaron Rodgers, and it's the first day of the franchise tags being able to be issued. And you start to get the feeling, of all this potential quarterback movement around the league, where people could go and what teams could do. And so football is just this great reality show that really never shuts down or shuts off. It just keeps going and going and going. So, yeah, I guess there were a few days last week. And yes, on Sunday, I did take my first Sunday off since July, and basically just sat around and made a conscious effort to not do anything and just sit around with my family and hang out. And that was very nice. But in this job, and it's a great job, and we're blessed and privileged, it just never stops. Like any other job. It just constantly is out there, right?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely understand it. Not as much as you do. I mean, you've been doing this for a very long time. But one more thing before I get into all the news and stuff, I got to ask you this because I'm getting a lot of it. Do you still get a family member or someone who doesn't really follow football that closely who walks up to you and says, Adam, the Super Bowl is over. What are you going to do until next season? I've been getting so much of it.
I got a lot of that. I used to get a lot of that. Like when people find out, oh, you cover football for a living? Yes. And so what do you do? What do you do in the off season? And I said, no. The off season is the regular season, and the regular season is really the off season or the predictable season. And there is no off season in the NFL. We get a quiet month in, second half of May, June. It's nice and quiet before it starts heating back up in July. But most people, my phone just broke. Everyone's asking Rodgers, as we record, I don't know what Aaron Rodgers is doing, for the record right now. But there is no off season, and that's what people don't understand. The off season has more drama, or as much drama as the regular season. That's when, just say this is what I always say. It's when there are firings and hirings, comings and goings, contract extensions, injuries, draft, all-season programs. What off-season?
Right. It just never stops. It just never stops. I mean, it's literally 24/7. Even like that May period, you never know what's going to happen. I mean, we had that 1 year with the Aaron Hernandez stuff, and we've had GMs getting fired during that period. It was John Dorsey, I think. Like, we've had stuff happen even during those periods, which, again, just the NFL never stops. Let's jump right into it here. And this will be a little bit of a quarterback heavy episode, but we'll touch on a couple of other topics as well. I want to start in Arizona, because if you told me before the season that they're going to make the playoffs in a very tough NFC West, I would have probably called it a success. But something is wrong there. Kyler is not happy. Is this something that could spiral out of control here?
Well, in a way it did, right? I mean, the second half of the year, at one point, they were sitting with the best record in all of football. And then it went straight downhill after that. And so now there are questions about the type of leader Kyler is and what direction the organization is going to go. So in a way, it's done that already. Now, how they handle it in the offseason and how they rebound from that will be telling. But clearly there's some issues that organization has to work through right now, and it'll attempt to do so during the offseason. But things went south in them real quick. At one point, they were the best team in football, and people were talking about Arizona having home field advantage, and then they didn't play a single playoff game at home at all. So the second half of the season had to be very disappointing for that team.
It was just everything went downhill, as you said, during that second half of the year. But I was kind of wondering if Kyler and Cliff Kingsbury have the same agent. Does that affect things over here? Because it's hard to split them up. I feel like Kyler wouldn't have been the number one overall pick if not for Cliff. So like, could this actually get to the point where they'll actually split up, or is that just going too far right now?
Well, I think that having the same agent, certainly is it's an overlooked part of the process, right? So if they decide to fire Cliff Kingsbury, which again, that's not happening, but if they did, I think that might impact their negotiations with Kyler Murray. Or if they didn't treat Kyler Murray in a fair way, I do think that might impact how Cliff's agent would deal with the Cardinals. I mean, how could it not, right? If he feels wronged on one end, whether it's with the coach or the quarterback, you're going to tell me that he's not going to remember that dealing on the other end? I know that he's going to do ultimately what's best for him and his client, but you can't separate the two and say that there's no way it would have no effect. No way. It's just not human nature in my mind.
I've seen some people throw around that this could be a money thing and an extension thing. I feel like it's too early for that. Like, I know he's eligible for it this offseason, but unless they just came over and said, no, we're not doing it, then he went off. How else could this be a money thing right now?
Well, it could be a money thing because it's the first time he's eligible for a new contract. That's number one. And he's due to make $10.7 million this year. I think that's the number. You might know as well as I do. $10.7 million at a time where the top quarterbacks are making $35, $40 million. So literally, he is $25 million undervalued. So it very easily could be a money thing. I don't know that it is. I'm just saying, just do the math. He's eligible for an extension for the first time. The market value is what it is. He's due to make about $10 million. Yeah, he could be upset by that. Now, again, it would seem a little odd because the offseason just ended and he's just eligible to do his first deal. But I would think it's beyond that. But certainly that may be a part of his thinking going forward, that he wants more money. That could be. Who doesn't want more money? It could just be the way that he feels the organization has or hasn't handled him. I mean, he's a very quiet kind of guy. I don't know exactly what's going through his mind.
One more thing on Kyler before we move on. Could baseball ever become an option for him?
Look, I think at the back of his mind, he's always going to have that as a threat. If he ever decided to unleash that, when he decided to unleash that, we'll see. Not so simple to do. I don't think he's going to play baseball. Certainly now, not with
probably the worst time possible, unless you want to go to China or Japan or something.
Yeah, he doesn't have much leverage there. But assuming they can figure that out, what the hell they're doing in baseball, then yeah, at some point in time, that would be one of his options. I'm not telling you that he'd use it anytime soon. But sure, like he's always talked about the fact that he's been intrigued by that, right? So I don't think he's trotting it out right now. I don't think that they fear that he's not going to play in 2022 because he's going to go play for the Oakland A's or whoever it is. But at some point in time, could we see that card surface? Yeah, why not?
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely just an eye-opening thing that happened over Super Bowl week. I didn't really take much of it because I'm not a big fan of social media unfollowing. Was he actually following beforehand? Who knows, So I kind of stayed back, but then, more came out with the report and more things came out. So now my eyes opened up a little bit, but then it's gotten quiet again, which makes me think something could possibly happen. So that's the first quarterback situation that I've been really keeping a very close eye on because it really came out of nowhere. But sticking to the NFC West, Russell Wilson in Seattle. My producer here, Stone Rochelle, is a very big Seahawks fan. He wants to know what's going on over here. He wanted out basically last year when they were winning. And now they're coming off a losing season and they don't have a first round pick. Shouldn't that mean he 100% wants out? What are we missing here?
Well, let me say this, that we're going to go over all the quarterbacks and we're going to go through them. And every one of these situations is fluid. So we could say something today that will be rendered obsolete by tomorrow, whether it's with Aaron Rodgers or Russell Wilson or anybody. So we are discussing these quarterbacks as they exist, right? as they are in their current situation. And these situations are fluid and they change by the day. So when we're talking about Russell Wilson, as it stands today, February 22nd, because I think you have to preface these things because people then like to hold you to these comments. So you said that he was staying in Seattle, and then on March 3rd, he's traded, but you said he's staying. Well, yeah. Well, on February 22nd, where it's at today.
Plans change.
Well, it's not allowed to change in our world, Ari.
Yes.
You're liable for everything. So as it stands today, and I want to be very clear about that, we haven't heard any of the chatter that we did last offseason about Russell's agent opening up the door. Do I think that that's lurking in the background? I'm sure it is. Do I think that Russell has thought about his options? I do. Do I think it's going to lead anywhere? I don't know. It's February 22nd, and nothing has happened so far. And to me, if something's going to happen, Russell has to kind of initiate it. He has to go to them the way that Matthew Stafford went to Detroit the day after the season last year and say, this is in both sides' best interests to go make something happen. And to my knowledge, he has not done that yet. Could he do that at some point? Sure. But he hasn't yet. Now, I will say what's interesting to me is we're waiting on Rodgers as we record this midday, and I know he's scheduled to talk in the next hour. We're waiting on Russell Wilson. Nothing's different. Waiting on Deshaun Watson and all those legal situations playing out. There are an awful lot of teams that need quarterbacks. Denver, Washington, Carolina, Indianapolis, Pittsburgh, Tampa, New Orleans. I'm sure I'm missing some. Just off the top of my head, there aren't enough quarterbacks to go around. There just aren't. And as I said on my podcast this week, I had a few people suggest to me that if you took the top quarterback in this year's draft, the 5 quarterbacks picked in the top 14 picks last year all would be ranked ahead of the top guy in this draft class. So you tell me where all these teams that need quarterbacks, where are they getting them from, especially if ultimately Rodgers doesn't go anywhere or Wilson doesn't go anywhere and Deshaun's situation is in limbo.
Yeah, so a few things there. First of all, when it comes to Russell Wilson, the way I look at him, he's very image cautious, as anybody in this league probably. He doesn't want to be the person who, I guess, forces his way out. You mentioned Matthew Stafford. I think the way he went out of Detroit, where it was peaceful and he was traded and he was in the Super Bowl and Detroit loves him, I think that's the way Russell wants to leave Seattle if it ever gets to that point. He wants to leave, go somewhere else. Eventually, when he retires, come back, Ring of Honor, my number is retired, everyone is clapping for me. Doesn't want it to be a way where it's forced out. Does that make sense a little bit when it comes to Russell?
Yeah, I think he'd like them to break up with him rather than him breaking up with them.
Exactly.
Right?
That's the way I look at him. I think last year he got a little bit out of control. He didn't like the way people were talking about him. It cooled down a little bit. We'll come back to it next offseason. Again, it's February 22nd. Things could change, but he's definitely one of the quarterbacks that we're going to be talking about. Now, he's one of the bigger quarterbacks.
But hold on. You're saying he's definitely one of the quarterbacks we're going to be talking about.
Yeah.
And I've had teams ask me about him. And I would say, what is different if he doesn't say anything? If he doesn't meet with the team and say, you know what, I'm open-minded to a trade, I'd welcome that. It might be good for everybody. If he never says that, what's going to change?
Seattle has no reason to pick up the phone.
Okay, so let me ask you a question. What happens when Team X, of all the teams we listed, calls Seattle and says, we'd like to make a deal for him? You're John Schneider, the Seahawks general manager. What are you doing, Ari?
Why would I ever do it? Who am I replacing him with? Who's better than Russell Wilson?
So unless Russell has a conversation with them, what is there to talk about there? And why is this going to come up again?
Because he did it last year when they were winning and they're coming off a losing season. They don't have a first round pick.
But it's February 22nd and we haven't heard anything yet. And their season ended how long ago?
You never know what goes on in those back channel conversations with the team. He could have went up to them. I mean, this guy sits in a suite with Roger Goodell at the Super Bowl 2 straight years. 1 year, Tom Brady goes in, win the Super Bowl. Matthew Stafford comes in, wins the Super Bowl. How is that not on his mind?
Well, yeah, I agree with that. It is on his mind. But to this point in time, he has not stated to the organization, I would like to be moved. I'm open to that.
That could happen any day.
Well, it could, but with every day that goes by, the chances of it happening drop every day. It's less likely every day. Now, we are entering something of a now or never period. But to me, if you're Russell Wilson, what date of the season end, the regular season end for Seattle? January, what, 16, 15, 16?
Even earlier, I think.
8th, whatever it is. The time to have this conversation was 5 weeks ago, not now.
But the fact that nobody has been moved yet, but nothing has happened yet.
When did Matthew Stafford have the conversation with the Lions?
January 15.
The Monday after the regular season ended. Right. Okay? Because he knew. Russell, we're now on 5-6 weeks. He didn't really say anything last offseason. He hasn't said anything so far this offseason. That doesn't mean that his interest and curiosity aren't any different. It doesn't mean he wouldn't welcome it. But unless he pushes the envelope a little, which so far in 2 years, he hasn't been really willing to do, nothing's going to change.
You know what? Let's play this. Let's say Russell is not traded. Aaron is not traded. I want to stick to the NFC West.
There we go.
Jimmy Garoppolo likely gets traded. If those two guys aren't moved, could Jimmy get traded for a first-round pick because nobody else is available? None of the big guys are available, at least.
Well, and you say likely on Garoppolo, and I mean, I guess that's fair. But I'm just telling you that Trey Lance was probably further behind than people realized. Trey Lance is greener than people realized. Trey Lance is going to need more work than people realized. And they have a roster that can win now. And if you're San Francisco, so you just said if someone gives up a 1, so maybe somebody doesn't. Let's just talk this out for a moment. And let's say somebody gives up, what would you say, a 2 and a 4 for Garoppolo? I'm just throwing something out there.
That's a Sam Darnold trade last year. All right.
Okay, it's Darnold went for a 2 and a 4, right?
And a 6, yeah.
Okay, so let's say they get a 2, 4, and a 6. Now you're San Francisco. Now you could say Jimmy Garoppolo is unquestionably one of the most popular and respected players in our locker room. Players love playing with him. We have him under contract this year at a very friendly $25 million cap number. And if we play with him this year and we lose him after this year, we're going to get a 3rd-round comp pick back in return. So are you better than playing the season with Jimmy while getting Trey the training that he still needs? Or are you better trading him for, let's just call it a 2, 4, and a 6? What's the better alternative? You tell me.
I get that. But if you're not trading Jimmy right now, and after trading up to get Trey Lance, it's a sign to your fan base that he's not developing the right way.
No. Let me say this. He's developing the right way. They are happy with him. But I go back to my initial statement is that he didn't play college football at all 2 years ago. He's coming from a small school to begin with. And there is a steep learning curve for a quarterback like that who's blessed with a lot of talent, who they still are very high on. It's not a reflection of whether they think he's going to make it. Look, we said this last year, and people said, no, come on, they're not keeping Garoppolo. They're trading him. Well, he played. And by the way, maybe they do trade him. I'm not telling you you're wrong. It still is absolutely on the table that he could be moved, and I think he believes he's going to be. I'm just giving you the other side that I don't think it's a lock that he's going to be traded. He very well might, but it's not a lock. But to your other point, if all these other quarterbacks are staying, now does a team up its offer for a guy like Jimmy Garoppolo? I think to a certain level, maybe, yeah. Maybe if they were going to go a 2, 4, or 6, maybe now they go, okay, you know what, we'll give you a 1 and a 6. And we're just talking off the top of our head here. Could it increase the value of Jimmy Garoppolo? Some, maybe some, but I still think the amount it can increase is capped to a certain degree. But yeah, it could drive up the value of Jimmy. And again, to our earlier point, where are all these teams getting the quarterback that they want next year? You know, there's a team last night that called me. They're like, hey, what's going on with Russell? I exactly what I told you, right? And so, well, okay, well, if they can't get Russell, then who's the next guy they're getting? Well, it doesn't, maybe not Aaron Rodgers. Some teams are or aren't willing to wait and see what is going on with Deshaun Watson. Some teams are open to that. Other teams, I think, have questions that they want answered. Okay, so not those guys. Who's in that next tier?
You would think
It's tough to come up with the names.
it is tough. I mean, those are the three guys. I mean, I guess I could just shift right into Deshaun Watson, I guess, from here, because I feel like we have been talking about him since last January. But is it viable to even mention trade scenarios right now when all of this other stuff is going on? Like, it took a little bit of a backseat during the
Yeah.
season. People moved on a little bit, but now we're in the off season. People are talking about it. The stuff is going to Rusty Harden and Tony Busby and everything.
Mhm.
Is it even worth discussing this right now?
I don't know if I'm smart enough legally to answer that, because I don't know where this is going legally. I think there are legal questions that have to be answered before we can answer the football questions. I think they trump the football questions. Now, would there be a team that trades for Deshaun Watson in the coming weeks,
right,
before all this is settled? I don't know about that. I don't know.
How can an owner say yes to it, though?
Right. Well, when there's clarity to the legal situation, and
right,
when it's resolved, and when we know what we're dealing with and what we're talking about, and whether there are going to be charges brought, whether there's going to be discipline for the NFL, when we know all these things, we'll know more. But there's so much that is unknown there right now that it's hard to answer. Certainly count on him as a viable quarterback option right now on February 22nd.
right. And again, there's stuff going on. I mean, just yesterday, Rusty Harden was out there. There's depositions going on. There's a chance he could end up speaking under oath. We don't know about that yet, but all this stuff is going on right now. The offseason is about to heat up. While we're on this Texans topic for a second, I was kind of curious to ask you this. What happened in the Texans head coaching search? Because Lovie Smith is great, but it's hard to believe he was the guy they envisioned hiring when David Culley was fired. I mean, what exactly happened there?
Well, let's just deal with the facts, right? When they did all their initial interviews, Lovie Smith was not on the initial list.
No.
Okay. Brian Flores filed the lawsuit he did. The track record across the league for hiring minority coaches was what it was, which was abysmal. And the Houston Texans, I believe, were at the very least highly interested in Josh McCown. And so in the climate that existed at a time where they would have been getting ready to make their hire, I think they sat back, thought long and hard about it, and made the determination as an organization that if we go with Josh McCown, as much as we like him and believe in him, that we're going to be met with widespread criticism. And I think that in the end, as much as they would have liked to hire Josh McCown, and as much as I personally feel like Josh McCown is going to be a great head coach in the NFL one day, they as an organization didn't feel comfortable moving forward in that direction. Thus, on the weekend of the Pro Bowl, for the first time, Lovie Smith is brought in as a candidate, and they wind up hiring him that Monday of Super Bowl week. So, look, Brian Flores was somebody that they felt like they couldn't hire for whatever reason, legal issues. Jonathan Gannon was another finalist. He was told that Saturday that he was out, eliminated, Saturday, day before the Pro Bowl. So now they're down to Josh McCown. Everybody's just waiting on that. And all of a sudden, between that point on Saturday when they eliminated Gannon and didn't pull the trigger on Josh McCown, Lovie Smith came into play. He interviewed with them on that Sunday, the Pro Bowl. He interviewed with them again Monday morning after the Pro Bowl and was hired that afternoon. I mean, those are the facts, right?
Right. I mean, I put that, just read the tea leaves. I mean, that's basically what happened, what you just said. But like, if we could just go back for a second, Texans had a reset button. Is David Culley still the head coach right now?
I don't know that. I think they would tell you, the Texans would tell you, no, he wouldn't be. That, philosophical differences over staff.
They hired his defensive coordinator to replace him.
Again, I think in this particular case, Ari, it's best to let the facts speak for themselves rather than me make assumptions. The facts speak for themselves here.
Yeah. All right. Let me talk about a different coach for a second, because Super Bowl week was a bit weird on the back end because Sean McVay was brought up. Aaron Donald was brought up. Retirement was brought up. I didn't really buy the Sean McVay stuff, even though I've heard that in the past, and it kind of makes a little bit of sense. 3, 4, 5 years from now, go to TV, make the same amount of money or even more. He'll be awesome at it. Come back to coaching in your mid 40s. It's not the craziest thing, but I don't think it would happen right now. But how real was the Sean McVay stuff, and how real I think is the Aaron Donald stuff? I don't think that thing is over just yet.
Well, I would say on Sean and television, it's something that's always been in the back of his mind. And it's really a lifestyle choice. Coaching is a hard profession.
Stressful.
So if you're very stressful, look, any job is. But if you're Sean McVay today, let's play a hypothetical game here, Ari. If you're Sean McVay and you took a job with a network today as an analyst, could you get back into coaching at any point that you wanted if you missed it?
I think he would.
Well, no, I don't know whether he would or wouldn't. It would depend on whether he liked broadcasting and how he liked that lifestyle and whether he missed being around a team. But the point is, just think of Bill Cowher. Bill Cowher, I think, walked away from football. Was it a year that he won the Super Bowl? I don't remember.
Yeah.
But
after he won.
The point is that there were questions about Bill Cowher and Jimmy Johnson for a long period of time. Hey, will they come back? Will they come back? Will they come back? If Sean McVay were to walk away now, and I'm not telling you he is, but if he were, he could come back to coaching anytime he wanted. Yeah. Because there would always be a spot for somebody as successful and dynamic as Sean McVay. He could go back to coaching, and maybe the Rams will win another Super Bowl next year. Maybe they'll win another one in 2 years. But the chances are probably not. And the chances are he's going to work really hard. And maybe he'll go 10-7. Maybe he'll go 11-6. Maybe he'll go 7-10. I don't know. Right. But it's going to be really hard. And then he still would have value as a broadcaster, but maybe not as much. And certainly if he went at that point in time, maybe there wouldn't be quite as much interest in him coming back. Look at John Gruden. Same thing. Was always welcome back to coaching and eventually made that move. So Sean can do whatever he wants to do, whenever he wants to do it. TV's always been an option. And so it's just a question of when it's right for him in his life, whenever that is, whether that's this year, next year, the year after, that's always going to be there for him. But it's just a question of what he wants to do and when he wants to do it. Those are the questions with him. Aaron Donald, it came up again. I think, look, at the end of the year, the one thing I've learned in this job is that everybody, I don't care whether you're a player, especially a player who uses his body all year long, or a reporter, or a coach, or a friend, everybody's tired on February 10th. Everybody's tired. I want a break too. And Aaron Donald has done far more, the amount of physical work and pounding he takes. Oh my God, great respect for that. And so, yeah, at the end of the year, I'm sure he does feel like, what? I don't know that I want to do this anymore. And especially when his contract dips next year and he's supposed to make $14 million in salary when the top defensive players are making over 27. So you know what? So if you're the Rams, Aaron, we know you're beat up. We know you're tired. Take some time. It's no problem. We'll be here waiting. And when you're ready to come back, if you're ready to come back and you're ready to talk, we'll sit down and we'll revisit your contract and we'll make it a number that's more commensurate with the type of player that you are. So I don't know when that is, 2 weeks from now, a month from now, Aaron, we're going to up your contract to $20 million. And we know you've gotten some time off. We'd like to run it back. You open to doing that? And my guess would be probably yes. Now, maybe he could walk away. There are players who've done that. He's accomplished an awful lot. He would go to the Pro Football Hall of Fame now if he never played another down. He's won a Super Bowl. He can make that the last game, a la Michael Strahan, Jerome Bettis, John Elway. Could have a storybook ending. But he also would be bypassing the chance to try to repeat, to make $20+ million on a rework contract, to be back with his friends. We'll see what he decides. My guess would be that he comes back and plays again, but I understand how beat up he is, how tired and worn down he feels, and he certainly has earned the right to do whatever he wants with his life.
The thing with all these guys who could retire, and Rodgers is in that category, and Donald's in that category. I've said that I will just play one more year for the simple fact that when I go into the Hall of Fame, and these guys are first ballot guys, you're going to be overshadowed by Tom Brady. You're not going to be the main event. Tom Brady is going to be the one getting all the attention. I would just play one more year just for that reason.
Well, how do you know that Tom Brady's not going to come back later this summer? I mean, who knows what's going to happen there? You got to do what's best for you, not based off Tom Brady.
Do you think Tom Brady could actually come back?
At this point in time, what did Bruce Arians say? He highly doubts it, or what was his exact phrase? I don't think so.
It was.
Here's the thing.
Yeah.
Here's whatever the expression was, and I would say the chances on February 22nd are very, very low that he comes back. But I don't know what Tom Brady's going to feel on July 22nd or August 22nd. I don't know if a team's going to suffer a quarterback injury, some sort of contender with a great team all of a sudden loses its quarterback, and all of a sudden they want Tom to come play. What happened? I mean, we saw it this year. The Saints lost Taysom Hill. They lost Jameis. They reached out to Phillip Rivers. They reached out to Drew Brees. Like, who knows what happens during the course? I think you know this league well enough to know anything is always possible. Anything is. Do I think he's going to play again? Probably not. No, I don't. But do I rule it out? No, I don't rule it out either.
Yeah, I mean, the thing about Tom is that he's on the record that when I retire, it's not because of my body. I could play until 50 if I want to. It's more of a family thing. So again, yeah, of course, a phone call could come in. But when it comes to this situation, there's been some people mentioning tension in Tampa Bay. Is that real? I mean, I didn't really buy it, but was there some tension in Tampa Bay there as part of a reason?
I don't know. I don't know. It's tension. I don't know what you want to call it. I think there are issues with every quarterback and every coach. Like, but it's Tom Brady, so it gets a lot of attention. Do I think it was completely smooth sailing? Probably not. Do I think that drove him from the game? No, I don't. But yeah, every quarterback's got issues with certain guys at some point in time. That's not unusual.
Yeah, I mean, Tom had it with Josh McDaniels on the sideline. We've seen it many times. It happens. Speaking of Josh,
Tom and Josh are very close. Tom had fights with Bill O'Brien on the sideline.
Yeah, I mean,
and everything with them was fine too.
On camera, yeah. I mean, speaking of Josh, he finally left New England for the Raiders. We have a couple more topics here before we finish up. He took over the Raiders. Derek Carr's in the final year of his contract. Are they committed to him to get a deal done this offseason?
Again, another quarterback question. We haven't heard anything. We haven't heard anything otherwise about Josh McDaniels not being interested in Derek Carr. But I would say this, and this is my opinion, I don't know that we would either. Because if you remember the last time that Josh McDaniels took a head coaching job, he went to Denver, and all of a sudden there was this issue that he wasn't a big Jay Cutler fan or he liked somebody else, and it came out. And almost his whole head coaching tenure was marked by controversy before it got started. Yep. So my guess is if Josh learned anything, he's not going to say anything. But we're going over all these quarterback options, right? Is there a better quarterback option right now than Derek Carr? I would say probably not. Probably not. Now, maybe privately Russell Wilson would like to go to Las Vegas. Maybe Aaron Rodgers would like to go to Las Vegas. And in that case, sure, I'm going to listen. But I'm going to operate, if I'm Josh McDaniels, as if those options aren't happening until I know they are. And because of that, Derek Carr is my quarterback. And so I'm not going to do anything to put any blemishes on that relationship. And let's start fresh. Let's start happy. Let's make this work, and let's have a great run here in Vegas. That to me is how I would proceed until I knew otherwise.
Right. I mean, and Josh took a full 10, 11 years until he got another job. He opened up about his time in Denver, said what was wrong, said he didn't have good connection with people. And of course, the color thing was a massive mess. I mean, got traded, ended up to Chicago, Kyle Orton, 2 first-round picks. Didn't go over that well. And then he was fired after a year and a half, I believe. And then now he's back there now 10 years later for another head coaching job. 2 more quarterbacks before I wrap this up. Carson Wentz, we have not mentioned him. Mort brought up a couple of Sundays ago to expect a trade or a release.
Yeah.
My thing is he wasn't great, but he also wasn't terrible. How did we get to this point where they traded a 1-3 exactly 1 year ago, I believe, and now we're here?
Well, I would just say that when Mort says that he's expected to be traded or released, by the deadline in March. He will be traded or released by the deadline. He won't be the quarterback there. I have complete faith in Mort in that regard. And Mort was the first to report that. And I believe Mort will be proven accurate on that particular point. How did we get there? Well, he had an uneven performance during the course of the year. He started rocky with all the COVID vaccination stuff. Then he came on, he started playing well again, team playing well. And then it went south at the end, ending with a loss to Jacksonville. And so I think when you're sitting back, what I'd be curious to know is, okay, we in our own mind think that we can improve upon Carson Wentz. Well, again, as we talked about with Oli, who's that guy? Okay, so we're moving on from Carson Wentz. That's great. No problem there. I got it. Sam Ehlinger, the guy in Indy? Jacob Eason, the guy in Indy? Who's the guy? I don't know the answer to that right now. Now, I know it's a really good roster. I know Chris Ballard has done a great job with it. I know that they can win with other guys. But if we just look at the final 8 quarterbacks this year and every year, the last 8 quarterbacks in the divisional playoff round, you will find that there's a common theme that emerges every year. Oh, lo and behold, largely 7 of the 8 teams, 6 of the 8 teams, maybe 8 of the 8 teams all have one of the best quarterbacks in football. They just do every year. There are very, very, very few outliers that make it into that round. So this year, the final 8, correct if I'm wrong, were Jimmy Garoppolo, Aaron Rodgers, Matthew Stafford, and Tom Brady. And the AFC was Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, Joe Burrow, and who am I missing? Somebody else.
Cincinnati played against
Ryan Tannehill?
Yes, there we go.
Ryan
yes,
Tannehill.
They had the bye.
Okay.
Yes.
Now you can make an argument about Tannehill and Garoppolo, where they are, but certainly they're good quarterbacks in this league. Okay, they might not be elite quarterbacks, but they're good quarterbacks who have gotten their teams far in the playoffs. So I don't know. If you don't have one of those guys, your defense better be unbelievable. Your special teams better be unbelievable. And you better think that it's not as realistic for your team to go as far as it could with one of those quarterbacks who's really good. But again, where are we getting them this year, Ari? Where are we getting them?
And that's the question that I have with Indy, because they don't have a first round pick. So there's no trading for a big name. There's no drafting one in the first round. And Chris Ballard isn't someone who likes to trade future picks that often. He has done it, but doesn't want to do it. He's very into drafting. Where are they replacing Carson Wentz with?
Well,
it's a big question.
I don't think Andrew Luck is walking through that side door.
Right. All right. Last one here. This is a star quarterback. He's not going anywhere. Baltimore and Lamar Jackson had a down year. He's been extension eligible for 2 years now. He doesn't have an agent, which is super interesting to me. Mm-hmm. Is this something that'll be pushed to get done for a guy like him, who is very different than all these other quarterbacks? He runs around, could get injured anytime.
Yeah.
What's going on over there?
Basically, Lamar Jackson's his own agent. And
it's gosh.
And so to me, if I'm my own agent, I'm making sure that my deal gets done. Especially with the way that he plays, right? Like I'd be real leery about stepping on a football field until my deal was done. And I think Baltimore is absolutely interested in extending him. And I think the reason it hasn't gotten extended is because Lamar has been more interested in playing football and doing whatever he does. And so, at some point, to me, it's in his best interest to sit down and get that deal done. That would be if I were Lamar Jackson, that would be my off-season priority, and make sure that I don't step foot on a football field again until I have one of those lucrative new contracts that puts me in line with these higher paid quarterbacks in the league. That's me, but his life, and he can do what he wants. Right. So we'll see how he handles it, Ari.
Is that his mom, his lawyers? Who is doing this?
I don't know. Look, I'm sure there are people that have his best interests at heart without a shadow of a doubt. But we're talking about a deal that could be, let's call it 5 years, $40 million, a $200 million deal. If you were doing a $200 million deal, you'd like to, I think, have people work on it that are familiar with that, regardless of the commission. to me. His life is big. He can do whatever he wants.
Right. I mean, I don't want to get into the whole nitty gritty of how agents work and commission and all of that.
Yeah,
It's been a big topic, at least, about why he hasn't gone in that direction. Someone who could probably just advise him which way to go and everything. But I think that's definitely one that hasn't been talked about enough, and it's going to be interesting to see what happens there. Before I wrap this up, Adam, I do want to take a quick second just to thank you for something. Really just shout you out, but what you did for Parker Dickerson, Jeff's son, this past season. I mean, it kind of touched a lot of people. I mean, obviously, I didn't really get to know Jeff that much, but we donated and everything. But like, people who don't really follow football around me really appreciated seeing just social media coming together for once and doing something right. And that was really great to see. And I know that Parker was actually there at the Super Bowl this past week. And that was just great to see. So I just want to thank you for doing that this past year. It was just tremendous. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Ari. It was a testament to really the Chicago community, the sports community, everybody rallying together. And one of the reasons that I pushed it on my end is just think about anybody that loses both his parents at his age within a 2-year span. If God forbid that would happen to me, I'd want somebody to look after my children. And I knew Jeff a little bit. I didn't know him great. We did a couple of events together. He was always very kind, very gracious, very smart. I had great respect for him. But the way that Chicago rallied around that, the way that the sports community rallied around that was incredible. And then the Rams, shout out to them. Amazing good karma comes around. They flew Parker Dickerson and his family to the Super Bowl. They were, he was their guest at the Super Bowl. That's very nice. And they flew him in and set him up for that week. And that was pretty classy of the Los Angeles Rams to do that. But yes, that was one of the really strong points of social media, where in the span of whatever it was, a few days, everybody pitched in to raise $1.1 million for Parker. And I saw it generated some negativity, people saying, oh, why him? What about me? What about this call? Hey, this was at that moment very important to a lot of people. A lot of people stepped up, and some really good stuff was done for a kid who I think everybody would agree deserved to have a fair break in life.
No, for sure. I mean, it was definitely one of the highlights of the year, just seeing, how much hate there is out there. I mean, everyone is hating, trolling, whatever it is, but just seeing that all happen. And again, I just spoke to people who don't follow football, don't really care, and just showing them that they were a bit inspired just to see people who might not even know him come up and do that for a kid who obviously is in a tough spot. That was just great to see. So thanks for that again. And again, I want to thank you for taking the time. Best of luck here during this very busy off season. I'll get to see you probably next week in Indy for the combine, and hopefully we can do this again later in the off season.
Yeah, look forward to it. We'll go from this to going to see what Mr. Rogers has to say about which neighborhood he's going to be playing in next year, right?
Yeah, we didn't mention him at all here because we have no idea what's about to happen.
Well, we'll see you soon enough.
I appreciate it, Adam.
Ari, thanks for having me today. Best of luck.